Admission to an elite university is the supposed secret to a lifetime of success. Competition for coveted spots is so fierce that while an admission victory can't be guaranteed, there are proven ways to increase your children's chances for academic success. Today we have with us the guests from Park Lane International School, prestigious school in Prague, which graduates you can find in all the top-tier universities. How can school prepare young children for the future world? How does Park Lane International School ensures the children's success in academic life? And how to get into top universities? These are the topics of today's podcast. Our guests for today are Mr. Paul Ingarfield, principal at Park Lane International School, and Park Lane's exceptional student Nina, who was just accepted to the Cambridge University. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the show. Mr. Ingarfield, Park Lane International School provides so-called International Baccalaureate diploma program, which is known to develop lifelong learners who thrive and make a difference in the world. What is this program?
Well, the IB diploma program is a very holistic program, which obviously is very rigorous academically. It's also very varied, and it does enable students to play to their strengths. I think we prepare the children all the way up through the school, really, to be lifelong learners. And this is really the IB is really the icing on the cake in the last 2 years. So the IB itself, the diploma program, consists of 6 subjects that students take, 3 at higher level and 3 at standard level. And students get to choose these subjects from different subject groupings. So one grouping is languages A, which would generally be your first language, but it could also be a strong second language as well, because many of our students are, for instance, very fluent in both Czech and English. The second part is the group 2 is language acquisition. This is where you would continue your studies of, say, French, Spanish, German, and there are other languages as well. Or we offer ab initio, which is to start a language from scratch, from the beginning of the 2 years. Then the third group is individuals and societies, which I sometimes refer to as the humanities group. Then the sciences, the traditional sciences, biology, chemistry, physics. You'll also find computer science there as well. And a subject called ESS, which is environmental systems and societies, which is an interesting one because it can be counted towards the science choice or a humanities choice, depending on how you choose your program overall. The fifth section is mathematics, which everybody has to take, but there are different levels within mathematics, 2 different courses available at higher level and standard level. And the final one is the arts, and in our case, that means visual arts and music. These are the ones that we offer. Now, for people that are not talented with painting and playing instruments, this one is not compulsory. If you don't take one of the arts courses, you can double up by taking another humanities course or an additional science. So it's very much based around choice. And the students, of course, are given a lot of help and guidance in making those choices. When for us, they are in what would be the equivalent of the Czech 10th grade. For us, it's year 11, second year of the Cambridge IGCSE program. Students receive a lot of advice on how best to choose their IB subjects, which ones to do for higher, which ones to do for standard, and obviously, very importantly, what the universities are looking for.
Okay, I was very surprised about the mathematics. Why is it the subject that everyone has to take?
I think that this is quite it's quite common in other baccalaureate style courses. For instance, my wife did the French baccalaureate years ago, and regardless of which version you choose, everybody has to take mathematics to the age of 18. But there's a course involving a lot more sort of maths analysis. And there's another one that's more about application, which is the one that the people who are not so strong in maths will tend to opt for. But it will have practical application later in terms of charts and stats and that sort of thing. So the people that prefer the really high-end pure mathematics will choose the harder version and the people that are perhaps just looking for maths to generally be of help to them in their future life, which is the maths application. I should also add that in addition to the 6 subject areas, the IB contains some core components that everybody must take, whether they are whatever way they choose their subjects. They have to do the core components, and these are CAS, which is creativity, activity and service, which builds very much upon the very strong extracurricular program we have at Park Lane. Everybody has to complete that. You don't get any points for it, but it's an absolutely key ingredient. And then everybody also has to do an extended essay on a topic of their choice, and they will have a teacher assigned to be their supervisor over the 2 years. This is very helpful in preparation for university dissertations and so forth. And everybody also studies the theory of knowledge, which really ties together the learning across different subject areas. So there is a interdisciplinary nature to the way the IB diploma is structured.
Are these topics in addition to the 6 subjects?
They are indeed, yes, they are.
Okay.
So you do 6 subject courses, as I said before, and the core components, you will have guidance. That we have a CAS coordinator who works with the students in year 12 and year 13 to help ensure that they have met all the requirements in terms of voluntary work, creative work, learning new skills, etc. So this is what makes it so holistic, because it's really developing the whole person, and it's not purely about the academics. I think that's very important. And also the theory of knowledge, or TOK, as we call it, I think it's very important as well, because teachers in the different subject areas will also make connections with the theory of knowledge. So students are learning about learning and about how the knowledge came about, and they learn to think sort of philosophically.
Nina, you are one of the successful students of this program. When did you join Park Lane International School, and what was your reason for applying?
So I joined at the beginning of year 8, which would be the equivalent of the 7th grade in the Czech system. And my primary reason for joining Park Lane was because I wanted to challenge myself in a slightly different way. So I was happy at my elementary school, but I feel like it didn't really challenge me in that many ways. And I found much of the content very easy, and I also didn't get to choose what subjects I did. Okay. So one of the main reasons why I decided to apply to a school that then later offered the IB diploma as well as IGCSs beforehand was because that would have allowed me to specialize and really choose what I want to do in the future, which would then also later help me with applications for the best universities, because that was my plan already when I was younger. I wanted to study something slightly different, but still my plan was to go to very good universities and to a very good university. And I knew that a school like Park Lane would prepare me well for that.
Yeah, that's a good plan. How old were you? Were you 13?
So I think I joined Park Lane when I was about 12 years old. Okay. So this decision I made when I was about 11.
Okay, that's a good decision for the future. The Park Lane students community consists of more than 600 students representing more than 40 nationalities. How does this community help in the learning experience of students, Mr. Ingarfield?
Well, I think actually we've gone to over 50 nationalities now in total. Well, I think it helps in many, many ways. To put it into sort of context, you know, IB now is taught in, the IB diploma program is taught in 140 countries worldwide, and it was first established in the 1960s, and there was a sort of trial period where only a select number of schools were actually implementing the IB diploma. But from the mid-70s, it started to grow and is now more popular than ever. I think that the huge network of expertise that now exists across the globe, plus the staff training and development opportunities and the expectations that are upon each accredited school to ensure that the staff stay very much up to date with the course developments, but also in general with pedagogy, with teaching and learning strategies and that sort of thing, are of great benefit to our students. We're also expected to undergo a 5-year review following the original authorization. When you get the license, you have to go through a 5-year review. I think, again, it's the ideal it's the ideal way in which to complete the Park Lane education, really, for our 16 to 18-year-olds, because it really builds on so much of the work they will have done when they were younger, working in groups, researching, developing their English language skills, developing their maths ability, etc. And the great thing is when you get to the IB diploma area, you can choose subjects that you've not encountered before, such as psychology, economics, global politics, these subjects. So we have plenty of subjects prior to that prepare them for it, but there is definitely a sort of change in terms of the options available at that point.
You mentioned that the IB diploma program is internationally standardized program. I'm wondering if it slightly differs in its form and what are the specifics of the program at Park Lane International School in Prague.
Yes, it is very much standardized, and there is an authority which is called the IBO, which is now just called International Baccalaureate, that obviously oversees the development of the program. And where what's quite the case is that the course content is regularly updated, so new syllabi are introduced every few years, etc. And the course is actually delivered in 3 different languages worldwide: French, Spanish, and English, with English being the biggest slice of the pie, really. So what I would say is that across the globe, and also here in Prague, there are schools that offer the IB diploma program alongside other courses, other possibilities. It might be vocational training and that sort of thing. It might also just be, say, the maturity exams here in the Czech Republic. What I think is quite unusual at Park Lane is that everybody entering year 12 is expected to take the IB diploma program. There are no alternatives or exceptions. So that is a challenge for us as a school, for our teachers, to ensure that everybody starts the program really well equipped to tackle its many challenges. But I think that students like Nina and her colleagues really show that we are certainly getting things right in terms of the way we prepare our students.
Nina, Mr. Ingarfield already mentioned the holistic approach of this student experience. You mentioned as well that was one of the reasons why you applied to the school. The program and the school itself aim to develop not only physically and intellectually the students, but also emotionally and ethically. Could you tell me more about that?
Mm-hmm. So the program and throughout Park Lane, as well as the IB diploma itself, is designed to be challenging. And I don't think anyone who did it can say that it was easy. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't manageable. I think one of the things that I really appreciate in hindsight doing the IB is that it's really rewarding that you get to discover things about yourself as well as the world from different perspectives. So not only are you learning a lot about theory and lots of content, but you're also really getting to discover things about yourself. So trying to combine the intellectual and the very academic aspect of lots of the subjects with the core components that Mr. Ingarfield, for example, mentioned is challenging, but it also makes you a lifelong learner, and it really emphasizes the idea that you should continue learning even after you graduate and then even after you finish university. So that's something that I really enjoyed while I was doing the IB, but it's something that I also really appreciate now, because I see that even studying at Cambridge University, it is not just about the academics, but there's so many more aspects to learning that I don't think I would be able to appreciate into such depth without having done the IB and having had this sort of mindset ever since I sort of joined Park Lane, because it's not really that you come to Park Lane at IB and then all of a sudden it's different. It's very similar to the way that the education there is done even before.
Nowadays, you can find Park Lane graduates all around the globe. How does Park Lane and the International Baccalaureate enable students to attend the best universities?
I think it's largely in the preparation, sort of going back to the subject choice. I think for a school of our size, which now has around 60 students in each year group, the fact that we offer such a wide variety of subjects and we're ready to accept that some of the classes will be quite small as a consequence of the variety of choices does enable each of our students to find the strongest set of subjects for them to take. Nobody's being forced to do anything that they're not really keen to do. So I think that in particular helps. And what I would say is that what really helps our students graduating is the fact that universities worldwide recognise and really deeply respect the IB diploma, because they know how rigorous it is, they know how demanding it is, and anybody that comes through having passed the IB diploma programme will definitely be very, very well prepared for university, because the DP is rigorous. There's a lot of variety. And there is this emphasis, as I mentioned before, on interdisciplinary learning, which you don't always get with other courses for 16 to 18-year-olds. Nina's referred to the high level of challenge. That's definitely something that I think helps our students when they do move on into higher education. And I think really what's so important also is the nature of the 6 subjects and the core on their own brings in itself a high level of challenge, and the need to be able to keep these various elements properly managed by the student is really outstanding preparation for university life. And at Park Lane, each student's progress is tracked and monitored, not just in the final 2 years, but all the way through the school, and increasingly so in the secondary school. Extra support is offered if people are struggling in mathematics, struggling in chemistry, etc. The teachers are brilliant at offering, catch-up sessions at lunchtime, after school, and that sort of thing, which is really appreciated, and it can help. It can help people achieve a higher level ultimately. And I also think our teaching standards are very high. I think the teachers are very dedicated and committed, and they want the best for their students, and they realise that there's a degree of teamwork. Students work with other students, and they also work with their teachers. And I think that this is part of the recipe for success. And also, I would say that students of differing abilities are stretched and challenged. We don't just focus on the really academically able. We try to ensure that everybody at all levels really makes the best of their 2 years on the programme, and nobody's falling short in terms of their potential being matched by their achievements.
Which universities do the students apply most often to?
Well, this is very interesting because nowadays students look to all corners of the globe, and I actually have here some information about the universities that our students do apply to. So these are not just these countries are not just the applications. These are the actual destinations for Park Lane. So we've had students go to Austria, Canada, Czech Republic, obviously, Germany, the Netherlands, France, Ireland, Italy, Japan, Spain, Switzerland, the UK, and the United States. And each year we seem to be adding another country to that list. Far and away the most popular in terms of applications is the UK. And that is partially, I think, because we are a member of the Council of British International Schools, and our curriculum lower down is very much aligned to the national curriculum in the UK. However, what I would say is, although the UK gets the majority of the applications, it doesn't get the majority of the students now. And the main reason for that is Brexit. So whilst a lot of students will apply to the universities, including Oxbridge, including absolute top universities, it then comes down to a question of affordability. Since Brexit, the fees for EU students now attending UK universities have more than doubled compared with the home students, the home UK students. So it is, and many of our students are aspirational. They will still wish to apply and then try to sort of work on the finance plan, and it doesn't always come through. So what I would say is that the Netherlands has become a very popular choice because they're offering many courses in English across all the major universities in different parts of the Netherlands, and the courses are more affordable in terms of school fees, but accommodation at the moment is a challenge, because a lot of international students have switched to the Netherlands, and I'm not sure that the Dutch authorities have been able to keep up with the demand for accommodation. So that's perhaps more of a challenge, whereas the course fees are considerably cheaper than the UK. What we also find is that the students with sort of US or Canadian connections, maybe their parents studied there, maybe their older siblings or cousins and aunties and uncles, generally, if they do apply to the States and they get an offer from a top university, they do, that's our experience, they do generally take up that offer and they go across the Atlantic to study in the US. On top of that, we have some keen interest in some of the private business universities in different locations. We've got people studying art in Rome, for instance, people studying business in Paris. So it's quite a broad range. And then a lot of people stay home in Czech Republic to study, let's say, medicine. At the first faculty of medicine, we've got somebody currently, I think, in her third or fourth year, and another student in his third year as well. And increasingly, the Czech universities are recognising the IB diploma programme in terms of altering their admission requirements. Just recently, Charles University has agreed that IB students with a certain points total and a certain combination points total for their 3 higher levels, which of course must include biology and chemistry, will no longer have to take the entrance exams, because the IB itself will be proof that they will do very well on the course. So home students and also some international students now will be looking at Czech universities, particularly where courses are taught in English. Yeah.
Nina, you are accepted to Cambridge University. I'm wondering, why did you choose Cambridge?
So I was looking for a university in and of itself, regardless of the course, that would challenge me, but also would enable me to then have a really good career and would prepare me in as many ways as possible to be successful in the future. But that was just one part of it. The other, and probably the more important reason, was the course itself. So I'm studying land economy, which is a combination of law and economics and so many different things, including real estate, international development, sustainability, as well as finance. So it's a very diverse course that prepares me to go into whatever field I will want to go into after I graduate. And I will get to progressively specialize more and more as I progress in the course itself. So just in and of itself, that was something that was really attractive to me as an applicant. But one of the things that I also liked about it is the interdisciplinary approach. So the more I'm there, before applying, I thought this is a very unique thing to land economy. But the more time I spend at Cambridge, I realized that it's an approach that they take in general with most of their courses, is that it's not just simply learning this one very specific subject in and of itself, but it really tries to put things into context. So even students that are studying chemistry, for example, do take lessons in physics or biology, and especially the interdisciplinary bits where those two subjects intersect. And the same is done with land economy, so we don't just do law and then just leave it as it is, but there's a lot of aspects to law that link to economics, for example, or link to history that is really relevant to the course, and that will prepare me for like a job in the future much better than as if I were to be studying that in and of itself.
Now, Nina doesn't necessarily know this, but I know she'll be very pleased to hear that this year I think partially inspired by her example, and also Jakub, who graduated the year before, who'd gone off to Oxford to study computer science, that this year, among our year 13s, we had 7 applicants for Oxbridge. And thus far, I believe 4 of them have had interviews and are now waiting on decisions. And there are 2 students that have followed the same path as Nina, different colleges, but also very interested in the diverse nature of land economy. And last week I had the great opportunity to interview them for practice before they get interviewed for real, along with another candidate for architecture. And all 3 of them were really impressive. In total, then, we had 7 applicants for Oxbridge. We had 2 for medicine in the UK. These are all early applications as well. This is why I have the exact numbers. And we also had, for the top United States universities, 6 people looking for early decisions for Ivy League and other prominent universities. But it's great that people like Nina, who's been back to the school a couple of times, can have such a great influence. It just starts to mushroom after that. And I know that Nina's given a lot of confidence to the students following in her footsteps, in terms of taking on such a challenge and believing that they can do it.
Yeah, it's very inspirational. How would you say, Nina, that Park Lane and the IB program prepared you for the success?
So with the IB specifically, I think one of the key aspects of it is, as Mr. Ingarfield previously mentioned, is the interdisciplinarity. So you have to do lots of different subjects, and you also sort of learn about the connections that the subjects have between each other. And this is also very crucial to studying land economy and studying in Cambridge in general. But it also really prepared me for thinking in a sort of Cambridge way, to say. So really being open to new perspectives, really being excited by the fact that you get to learn from other people, other students, and their background and what they have to say, which is very important to land economy. It is very important to Cambridge, but is also quite crucial to IB, because most of what the course is about is not just learning facts and learning how to replicate them, but it's really to reflect on what you learn and then be able to sort of offer like a critical reflection of what you learned in the exam, because most of the exams aren't just like A, B, C, D multiple choice, but it really, like, mostly it is essays. You have to sort of offer some critical and intellectual thoughts in it to actually do well. So I think IB in and of itself in this way prepared me really well for the admissions process as well as for actually studying at Cambridge. When it comes to Park Lane, I think one of the key reasons that even made my application stand out was the fact that I was able to demonstrate that I'm really passionate about land economy, and I am able to sort of take it further and not just keep it within the subject. So what Park Lane really taught me is how to be curious and how to really just try and implement what I learned in school, like even outside of the classroom. So I was really involved with the student council. We created also a magazine within the school. With my friend, we also founded a debate club, like a debate society in school. And I don't think this would have been possible if I would go to a school that wouldn't be so open to having these things there and actually being open to supporting us with all these steps we took. So I think Park Lane prepared me in this sense as well.
How crucial are these extracurriculum activities to the application process?
So the UK and US vary a little bit with this. So in the US, it is very important, or not very important, but it can be important to do well in sports or music. At the best universities in the UK, so Oxford and Cambridge, they don't care that much about your success in sports, music, or languages, but they really care about activities that they call supracurriculars. So there's activities that you do that link to your subject that you want to study, but they are done outside of the classroom and outside of school. So these are quite detrimental because those are the activities, especially as an international student, that make you stand out. So I had the pleasure to do an internship at a think tank under CERGEI that enabled me to see how research is done, for example, here, like how economic public policy works here. And that was one of the things that I was then able to talk in my interview about, and which was one of the also motivations for me applying to land economy. Another thing that I did was I participated in a European program organized by Microsoft, also to do with public policy and protecting children online and how to improve the laws that are currently in place that aren't really working. And there I also got to experience lots of different things, including talking to members of the European Parliament, talking to the Czech CEO of Microsoft, as well as other politicians or also researchers from the OECD. And that was all, again, part of my application that I got to showcase that I am interested in land economy. I'm interested in what I could do after land economy, as well as really showing that I can take my learning further and actually have a positive impact on my community, knowing and having what I have.
I think, as you would have just really heard from Nina, there's a lot more to the IEB. There's a lot more to the sort of Park Lane approach to education than just subjects and certificates. That really is that's sort of an end product that you can attain. But I think working towards that, on top of great quality of teaching and learning, students come through the process really having developed so much that's rather hidden, but nevertheless very observable to people like myself. So I'd say that time management and stress management, research skills, developing reading comprehension, ICT skills, digital literacy, self-discipline, managing time, as we said before, learning to become a critical thinker, to challenge everything that you're learning, not just take it at first value, working in groups, working independently, presentations and public speaking, in addition to the debate club that Nina did so much work on personally to develop. We have a very successful Model United Nations club at the school, which is getting bigger and better each year. We host our own international conferences. Last year, I believe there were 200 delegates, with Park Lane in the minority. So the students came from other parts of the world, other parts of the Czech Republic, including quite a large number from California. And these days, our students get invited to attend other people's MUN conferences as organisers, as chairs of different committees, etc. I would say that it's also, it's really clear to me that, planning goals, being able to accept and apply constructive criticism, being a multitasker, being strong with data analysis, data literacy, etc. All of this is very important. And when I look at that, I think of my son, who graduated with Nina in May from Park Lane. He's now studying at the University of Nottingham. And so much of that applies to him in terms of the way I saw him develop. Not just he didn't develop, he developed himself. He took charge of his learning, became his own director of learning throughout COVID as well, coming into the IB program. And I think starting to realise that, these are skills for life, and they're a little bit more than the certificates that you have at the end, but it's all the other aspects of your education that develop. So I think that it's very holistic in that respect as well, in terms of the development of the person.
Can all these skills and abilities be taught?
Yes, but I think rather than taught, they can be learned. And I think that they are learned through, if a school can put in place the right opportunities, as Nina said, we had debating in the school for years, but when she and her colleagues started to get involved in debating, they took it to different levels. They were very ambitious with the debating club. Model United Nations was started by myself and then continued by a few teachers. And then as each year went on, it was increasingly taken over by the students. We also do the Duke of Edinburgh International Award. And we have plenty of students now that do the bronze and silver, and nowadays even quite a few students do the gold level. All of this is character building, confidence building, and this, I think, is what makes our students such strong applicants for university.
We mentioned all the 6 subjects you could choose from. I'm wondering, which one did you choose?
So for my 3 higher level subjects, I did business, chemistry, and Czech literature. And then for the 3 standard level subjects, I did English, language and literature, French, and maths.
And what did it take to be accepted to Cambridge? You already mentioned all the abilities you had to prove, but what was the main point that got you to the university, you think?
I hope that I will at some point find out. I'm not really sure. I can't see into the heads of the people that made that decision. I can only say that I do notice similarities between me and all the other people that are studying my subject or also other subjects within Cambridge. And I think that's the main thing that we have in common is the curiosity to learn, and not just about our subjects, but also about everything else. Like, I've had so many interesting conversations about mathematics or classics with people that were genuinely interested in these disciplines as well, no matter if they studied biology or classics. So I think that's something that really connects us all, is that we're just really excited to be there and learn from each other and learn about anything, really, because you never know when you will get to actually implement the things you learn, no matter how distant or how disconnected they seem to what you are actually learning. So I think that's one of the things that I think connects most people that are there. So that was something that I tried to showcase within my application, and to some extent, I probably was successful at that. But one of the things also that I think possibly made me even want to apply to Cambridge is that I was really excited to learn and be in an environment which is really adapted to learning. And I think one of the things that, for example, Park Lane did quite well is that they sort of created an environment where it was okay to fail and to not do well. It was an environment where it was okay to learn from my mistakes. That's what I wanted to say. So it was okay when I didn't get a good grade from a test. It was all right when I didn't do particularly well in a meeting or when I just didn't do something well, because it was always more of an environment and a situation that I got to learn from. And with this mindset, it's also easier to apply to Cambridge because you are sort of expecting to get rejected most of the time, because statistically most people do get rejected. So I knew that I can also take this as an opportunity to learn. And even if that doesn't work out, there will be things that I learned in the process and in the meantime that I will then get to benefit from in the future. So having the confidence also was part of it that made me apply in the first place, and then in the end got me accepted to Cambridge.
Mr. Ingarfield, just like at the top universities, you can get a scholarship at Park Lane. How many students can get the scholarship?
Well, I think if we're talking about scholarships for the IB diploma program, because we do offer scholarships lower down at 11, 14, etc. Nina came in at 12. For the IB diploma program, it's not so much a question of how many students can get it, but how many students can qualify for it, because it's quite a selective process. So there's no set limit, but I can tell you that at the moment, in both year groups, year 12, the first year IB, the second year in year 13, there are a total of 12 students, which is about 10% of the cohort as a whole, that are currently receiving what we call scholarships for academic excellence.
What are the main criteria for this selection process?
Right, well, this rather depends on whether you're an internal student moving up through Park Lane. So if you complete year 11 at Park Lane, you will have completed the Cambridge IGCSE programme, and you will have taken anything between 8 and 10 subjects. And the people that are awarded the scholarships for the last 2 years are those that attain the best grades, really. So we've had people obtaining 9, 10, 11, and even 11, I think, is the record, A stars, which is the top score you can get. So that's the main criterion for people that are already with us. For new students joining, it is more a case of they need to produce certificates, perhaps for the last couple of years, not really going back to when they did ballet when they were 7, but the last couple of years of achievements at school and beyond, we need a confidential letter of reference from their head teacher. We look at school reports for the last 2 years. Everything about those ingredients needs to be absolutely stellar. It's really important. And then on top of that, we of course have entrance tests. Now, the entrance tests for somebody applying for a scholarship or somebody just applying to join the IB program are very similar, but the expectations of the scores are much, much higher for somebody who is looking to acquire a scholarship. So those tests are based around aptitude, there's an online test on aptitude, reasoning skills, and there's also tests for written English. And both of those would apply if you were just applying to join the IB diploma program. But scholarship students, when they get really high scores, we actually utilise the services of Assessment Systems Company, who will work with the students one-to-one over a couple of hours, putting them through a whole range of other aptitude and reasoning tests, which go beyond the scope of the online test that they've already taken. And then whether you apply to be a scholarship applicant or a regular applicant, you will be interviewed. You will have to write a letter of motivation. You'll be interviewed generally by the head of secondary for regular entry with our IB diploma coordinator. So those two people will be involved in the interview. If you are a scholarship candidate, I might get involved as well. And during the interview, there will be new challenges set, sort of verbal challenge set, where we use a whole range of open questions with no right or wrong answers, but we're just looking to see how students are thinking and how original they can be.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a very thorough admission process.
Yeah.
How long is it, the admission process?
Well, it can be done fairly fast. I mean, the first thing that a student at 16 would do, it's very often the students rather than the parents, will contact our admissions officer. And from that point on, we would go ahead probably with the testing. The first line of testing, which is the English test and the online aptitude test, while hopefully obtaining all the right documentation. So very often the students are able to bring their school reports or send us their school reports. We will then approach their head teacher for the confidential reference. And this can take a week and a half. It could take 3 or 4 weeks, depending on how long it takes us to gather all the information we require. But then once the results are known, then we're pretty quick to offer places.
Okay. If we talk about the IB program only, how much does the program cost without the scholarship?
Yeah, the annual fees are 560,000 Czech crowns. And if someone qualifies for an academic scholarship, then it can really vary. There are percentage reductions, sometimes related to parents' ability to pay, because we don't want to lose a potentially brilliant student simply because there's no opportunity to pay the full fees. So that will vary, and it will also vary to some extent in terms of just how spectacular the selection test scores have been. If somebody has broken a record or is up there in the top 1%, then that can also be a big factor as well. And some of our Park Lane students coming through from the younger years, in some cases have had 100% scholarships because of that ability to pay factor, and have gone on to achieve really high scores for the IB later. So it's 560 is the base, but then we obviously will adjust it accordingly in terms of how well the students have done, and also the ability to pay.
Nina, we talked about how thorough is the admission process to Park Lane. What was your experience with the admission process? Was it hard?
So I went through the whole process when I was about 10 or 11. So to be fair, I don't remember too much from it. But what I do remember is that it was quite nice and wasn't particularly stressful. So I remember I took a mathematics test and an English one, and then like a critical thinking sort of an assessment. And all those were quite fine except for the English one. So I came from a Czech elementary school. So that was quite a big change for me already from the very beginning, before I even joined the school, because I was really expected to be able to communicate well in English, and that was quite a challenge for me. So already at that time, I realized that that would be something that would challenge me in and of itself. But to be fair, I'm very thankful for this, because it really taught me many things throughout learning the language, as well as learning other things in the language.
I have to say that I had the great opportunity, along with our university guidance counsellor, to work on Nina's reference for Cambridge. And one of the things that I know the UK universities, particularly the top unis, really appreciate is real evidence of self-development. And in Nina's case, as she'd said, she joined us at the age of 12 into year 8, which is the second year of the secondary school. And when she joined, her reading age was around about 8 years of age. So she's a 12-year-old with a reading age of 8. A year later, her reading age was 13. And then she went on to do both English language and literature for IGCSE, got fantastic results. And then she also did English language and literature as part of her IB. So I think Nina is a great example of somebody joining from a different system, not being totally immersed in English, having had English lessons, but not as much as our Park Lane students have when she was younger, and just being able to make this fantastic progress through our accelerated reader program, I think through her own efforts, massively through her own efforts, and also I think the quality of provision as well at the school. But that, I think, was something that we really emphasised in her reference, because it showed what potential she has still for growth, because she has done remarkably well for somebody that joined us at that age. So she did in all other aspects of the testing, did extremely well, and we could see her potential already. Her maths scores were really high. Her non-verbal reasoning scores were very high. So we knew we had a very, very clever student, and it was just a question really of time and effort, really. And Nina herself has always been self-driven, and also very curious and willing to develop herself. So these are qualities that Park Lane nurtured but didn't put there. They came with Nina when she arrived.
We are talking about all the success Park Lane graduates achieve. I'm wondering, how does Park Lane compare to other schools globally and regionally?
Well, I think the interesting thing to note is that, Park Lane is an accredited member of COBIS, which is the Council of British International Schools, and has been for many years. And as such, we have to undergo a very, very thorough inspection, usually with 6 or 7 inspectors staying with us for almost a week every 3 years. And the school always does very, very well. And the last inspection in 2022, I think, was the strongest so far in terms of the quality of the report. And our students were judged to be excellent in terms of their learning and their personal development. And we got very high scores for that. So I think we compare very favourably. I know that in 2022, the students did so well with the IB. They got an average of 37 from 45, with just under 40% getting a score of 40 plus. That particular year, we came 4th on a European league table, but when I looked at that, I thought all they have used is the results. And from what we said earlier, there's so much more to developing a young person than simply their points and their grades. So I think that's a rather narrow way of looking at it. But as I say, I will come back to the fact that everybody at Park Lane is expected to complete the IB diploma program. So when we're looking at 11-year-olds joining us, we're not just looking at them, sort of how they're going to get on in the first year or the second year. We're looking for them to complete the 7-year journey. And they have to already show us that they have certain qualities and abilities in place that with the right help at school, they will be viable and hopefully very successful candidates for the diploma program at the end.
Aside from the holistic approach, what are all the areas you do help your students in the university application process with?
Well, I think it's almost an endless list. And I have to give a lot of credit here for the person that leads that at our school, which is Mrs. Emma Emmerich. Mrs. Emmerich is an absolute dynamo in terms of the support that she offers students. It begins largely in year 11 with advice sessions, etc. We use a few online platforms. The popular one now is Unifrog, where students can set up their accounts and they can start looking at what the universities require. And Mrs. Emmerich is employed only to help with university applications. In some schools, the person doing her job might teach another subject, or half of her timetable might be teaching. In her case, it's 100% supporting students. So there's so much support. There are sessions for parents and sessions for students at different points in the cycle. We, as I've alluded to before, we write detailed reference letters where required, particularly for UK and for the US and Canada. I think we offer a lot of support for the application process. Students are guided on the best way to approach that. I remember Nina coming to me with her personal statement at one point. So she'd already had it checked over by a few different people. So we offer help and support and feedback on students, either their essays or their personal statements. I think that's also very important. One thing that's really clear is that the students have to do the lion's share of the work. It would make no sense whatsoever for the university guidance counsellor to spoon feed students. What she generally does is she helps them to narrow down their choices. Maybe some students at 15, 16 really don't know what they want to do, but you can start with what do you not want to do, and that can become narrower and narrower until you find something that really suits you. And I think that there's a lot of help and guidance with that. Individual teachers offer a lot of support as well. And Nina and other members of the Park Lane alumni, often back in school, helping either formally through presentations or informally by, passing on advice, or maybe contributing to a magazine article within the school and that sort of thing. So I think that there are an awful lot of ways in which students are helped. It's a full-on task, and the person that's doing it is so busy that she now has an administrator helping her. She used to be heavily involved in the work experience placements that our students do in year 11. She's got a colleague doing that now, so that she's fully involved in university guidance and help only. So she will know about the requirements for each of the different territories, what's required in the Netherlands, what's required in Germany, what's required in the UK, what are the deadlines, etc. And students will be able to book individual sessions with her, or if there were 4 people all going for medicine in the UK, there will be a group session for everybody so that they can be very economical with their time. I think the other thing that our guidance counsellor does is she tracks the various offers. She can see very often before the students or around the same time as the students when the different offers come in. And then, of course, my son had 4 offers, and then it comes down to narrowing down the offers, making a choice in terms of what you want to do next, and which university appeals to you the most and why. So the university advisor is there every step of the way, and I think that she does an absolutely phenomenal job. And some students are very, very independent with this. They will work on things individually, but they will always check in with her for second opinions, third opinions, etc. Other students need a bit more help, a bit more help and guidance throughout the process. But just as the learning at Park Lane is heavily differentiated, I think also the provision of support for universities is also. You get somebody like Nina who's very independent. She really knows what she wants. She would do a lot of the research for herself, but she knows that it's a team effort and the school will help her with that as well.
How many of the Parkland students are going through the university application process this year?
There are, I believe, in our current year 13, it's a bigger year group than Nina's. I believe there are 58. And some of them have already, as I mentioned before, they've already applied for early decisions. If you apply to Oxbridge, if you apply for medicine in the UK, it has to be October. The next main UK deadline is in January. There are American deadlines at different times of the year. So pretty much all of our students, unless they're planning to take a gap year, which happens sometimes, I would say that of that 59, there will be at least 52, 53 of them who will be looking to go to uni next September. And they're either very heavily involved in the process already, such as the people that have their interviews around now for Oxbridge, but then also throughout the year, because people don't just apply to one territory. We do place a limit on it. I think Mrs. Emmerich says no more than 10 applications, but we still have people doing 10, and they will see what Germany has to offer, what Holland has to offer, what the UK, and then they will choose from these. How they make these choices, I imagine, comes down partially to money, etc., but also in terms of what seems to be the best pathway for them individually.
Nina, what advice would you give to anybody dreaming about studying at one of the top universities in the world?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that come down to submitting a successful application, but some of the overarching themes of all the successful applications that people submit are that they really show how interested they are in studying what they have applied to. Because I think the biggest worry for the best universities is accepting people that will then eventually realize that they don't want to study what they applied to. So one thing that they have to be absolutely certain about is that you really want to study what you applied for. So showing your enthusiasm, showing that you care, and that's not just through writing essays or taking the subjects that are relevant to the course, but also doing things outside of school and outside of the classroom that really demonstrate your interest. So I think that would be the main thing.
Mr. Ingarfield, similar question for you. Based on your experience at Park Lane, what is the main component to academic success?
I don't think there's any one component. I think it's a combination of different elements, definitely. But I think to be successful with the IB diploma program, whether you've grown up at Park Lane, you've joined us at a different stage, or you've joined us from the beginning of the diploma program, I think that all students need drive and determination. They need a lot of resilience, a capacity to keep everything in balance with regard to their academic deadlines, their CAS tasks, etc. So organisation and determination are very important. I think following teachers' advice, attending support sessions if they're offered. I think staying fit and healthy is very important as well. Healthy mind, healthy body. That's not a gimmick. That's really true. And I think the DP is very demanding. So people that are mentally well adjusted and have a tough skin will probably do better sometimes than people that are more academically gifted, if they've got that sort of industrious attitude to their work, if they can stay focused and maybe get some of their deadlines in early, get some of the assignments done early. That can really help as well, because there will come a time in everybody's IB where 3 or 4 deadlines will come in 1 week, and then it really becomes quite tough going. So I think above all, the advice I would give to anybody looking at sort of Nina coming through the process, my son in the same year group, would be to embrace the challenge. That's really important, because it is a big challenge. Our diploma program coordinator says to students, you need to put your social life on hold a bit. Maybe if you're doing a lot of one particular activity, consider trimming that back a bit, because the IB is really, really time consuming and really demanding, and particularly if you're looking to do your very, very best to get the best out of yourself. So I think the other thing is it's not something you should just do alone. Nina was a great collaborator, worked closely with her friends, exchanging ideas, exchanging views. I think that's really important. Supporting one another and picking your friends wisely, and being friends with people that share that same mindset, of being successful, of being resilient, and of sticking to your tasks. Not, constantly asking teachers for extensions to deadlines, because all that does is it creates a logjam further down the road. But I think that, embrace the challenge, be ready that it is very demanding, but then the rewards are phenomenal, and it's a little bit more than the score that you get on your certificate. It's also the skills and the confidence that you will have developed by the time you graduate.
That's an interesting insight. Thank you both for the interview.
Well, thank you very much, giving us this opportunity to talk about our school and specifically the IB Diploma Programme.
Thank you.